There are questions. Senator from the 22nd, not on the floor. Senator from the 33rd.
I'll yield.
Senator, in addition to the 20-odd changes that you talked about that were made, is it not true that with correct verbiage, we might be able to visit punishing those who would be in the business of providing such documents that I described earlier to illegal immigrants?
Absolutely. If this were in a conference committee, the issue of basically the Social Security card mills, the places that print fake papers, could be put on the table and dealt with. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 36th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the senator yield?
I'll yield.
Does the senator share my concern that I've understood from the hall that the hotel industry has not been involved at all in this version of the bill, has not been consulted, and has not seen the bill and has not been allowed input on this version? Would you share my concern upon hearing that?
Well, I believe you have shared your concern, and I know you are passionate about what you're saying. I certainly agree that the retailers weren't involved, the hotelers weren't involved. There was nobody at the table.
Restaurant owners.
The restaurant owners. There was nobody at the table except one House member.
Exactly. And as an attorney, you could possibly have an opinion on what it's going to take for an attorney general to suddenly be expected to staff up at a level to have this public impouring of complaints and calls for investigations. What's your opinion on what sort of scenario we could be facing with these measures in this bill?
Well, I have no doubt that we have an able-bodied attorney general who will try to do his best. But we've already passed the budget. It hasn't allotted any extra dollars for any of these folks that are going to be needed to do this. That means that like any boss, and the attorney general is a boss, that he will have, in this case, he will have to make decisions about how to prioritize stuff. And if this is the priority, other stuff like drug trafficking, other stuff like prostitution rings, other stuff like pornography rings, other stuff like RICO violations will not get done. Other stuff like gang violence will not get done. And the reality is that he can certainly ask his able-bodied assistant attorney generals, and to the extent that he can stretch his budget, he can hire special attorney generals, outside counsel to deal with some of these cases. The reality is, at some point, these folks get so overworked that they will go work for other states and other places that will pay them more. The Attorney General can't adjust the pay of the folks. We've already passed the budget. What will end up happening is overworked people will end up leaving, and then even more work will not get done. Work that needs to be done on behalf of the people of Georgia, stopping violent crimes.
And so it's safe to say that in passing this bill, we would be incurring greater fiscal responsibilities for state agencies without question.
Absolutely, without question and without funding. We already passed the budget. This isn't. There's not. Forget the fact that there is or isn't a fiscal note for this. It was not anticipated in the budget. Period. There's nothing in the entire budget that indicates any part of it was anticipated in how they funded or staffed positions.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions,
Senator from 22nd, your light's on. You have a question?
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the Senator yield?
I'll yield.
Senator, you made a reference to nonprofits, church vans, and so forth.
That's correct.
Where is that in the bill that we have before us?
Article 5. It starts on page 9, starting with line 308. Okay. I mean, that's the section where you have the privately funded, this concept of privately funded social service deliverer.
Can you direct me? I'm looking at that page.
Yep, let me get you to it. It's line 339 on page 10.
Okay.
A person providing privately funded social services. Understand, Senator from the 22nd, since you are, in fact, a minister, that means providing rides to and from church services is not exempted.
Okay. So
And if it is not a privately funded social service, it's not exempted. Whatever, and that's not defined, but I can tell you it's not going back and forth to church.
I guess I'm confused, Senator, and I'm trying to draw. In line 330, this code section shall not apply to, and if I drop down to line 335, a person providing privately funded social services.
That's correct.
Would that apply to nonprofits, 501c3 organizations, religious places of worship?
It's not defined there's no definition of that in the code. So we won't know until after y'all are arrested and the court decides.
Thank you.
To answer your question. An appellate court decides to be more correct.
No further questions.